Hi there, I'm Larissa. I'm Senior Marketing Manager at MarketgooO, and thanks for joining us today on this webinar. Today, we're going to walk through something that almost every web host and registrar domain provider has struggled with, sending the right message at the right time to the right people. I'm joined by Jaime, our product and data expert here at MarketgooO, who focuses on mDI. He will, he will take us through how mDI turns domain data into real marketing actions. Let's get started. First, here we have some interesting stats. What we want to kind of set the stage is saying that personalization really is what turns your life cycle marketing from standard into exceptional and really getting results. Right at this point, we all stick to basics. We have merge tags. We'll include the customer's first name in our communications. That really is not enough to make your messages stand out and trigger action. And what we're seeing is that advanced personalization in web hosting companies is underutilized due to gaps in available data, resource limitations, and sometimes even lack of technical know-how, right? Sometimes it will be like you're sitting on a lot of data, but like you don't know how to get started on like extracting the value from there and acting upon it. So that's where mDI comes in. These are all points of friction that have to be overcome because, as we're seeing, the benefits of personalization are too great to ignore. We're getting 6 times higher transaction rates from personalized emails, 50% more click-through, from segmented emails versus non-segmented emails. And 71% of consumers already expect personalized interactions. And I think about 76% from the same study get frustrated when they do not receive personalized emails. So right now, we're going to look at a couple of real examples we've seen from web hosting providers and registrars. We've blurred brand names because we're not here to shame anyone. We just want to show and to learn. Okay, so we've got an example of an upgrade to a better, a more advanced hosting plan. This is one of the classic upgrades that we see all our web hosting partners want to make, obviously. But the problem here is that it was sent to a domain that's underdeveloped, has no proper website, an outdated CMS version, very, very little content, like less than 3 pages content. So the customer really has no use for this offer yet. Why are they receiving it? It's a mismatch. Here we have another example offering, again, an advanced plan, VPS, but the site that received this has a basic template. It has very little traffic, so it really doesn't need anything beyond shared hosting. There is no transactional behavior, so it's not a shop. It's not going to become an e-commerce shop. And the offer here is for a VPS plan, which is a resource-heavy upgrade. But this type of website really is not going to need to use more resources. Which brings us to these. We often see, a ton of these campaigns, which are great offers for TLDs. Here we have .ca, .art, which is actually one of my favorite domain extensions. And they're being sent, these great offers for these domain extensions are being sent out, but they're being sent out to a segment of customers who is never going to have any use for them. These are really common mistakes. We feel like it's something widespread. Like this lack of targeting, taking into account context. For instance, if you knew that a certain customer had an art gallery or was an artist, you could better target this campaign to them. If you knew that a customer is based in Canada, you can absolutely target this to them. So why are all these coming down to like irrelevant offers to a segment that won't respond to them? So how do we actually fix this kind of mistargeting? So like I said, if you knew a bit, you already know your customers, right? But you kind of like mDI is filling the gaps of like what you don't know so you can make better targeting decisions. So this is where Jaime comes in. So Jaime, so if you can share your screen, we're going to see mDI. What would you do like for any of these campaigns who obviously have slightly different objectives, but at the end of the day, it's to maybe get a better plan or upsell them to add this different domain extension to their plan? How would we go about it with mDI?
Cool, sure. So if that's okay, let me very quickly show the whole workings of mDI. Because for us it was very important to create a platform that was very easy, intuitive, and that did not require any setup or any installation. So if you were to use mDI, you basically just need to come to our interface. There is a database thing where you can simply upload your list of domains. No, there is nothing else you need to do. Just give us the domains, and then within a few hours, you would have all the different technical and relevant details for all of those domains. No? If we were to look into the different data points we get, it's actually quite overwhelming. We have over 80 different KPIs ranging from hosting infrastructure to SSL information, email settings, marketing, et cetera. No? I think the key challenge, Larissa, here is not that much about getting the data, but somehow helping you identify the opportunities within that data, no? Which links to the campaigns you were talking about. No? So for that, we have this concept of recipes. For us, a recipe is it's a combination of data points that can be acted upon. No? For us, that's very important. It's not about the data, but it's about what to do with that data. No? And through those recipes, you can discover kind of those opportunities within your database. How that works, there are two ways. Basically, either you can just type here anything you desire, like things like site using an outdated WordPress version, and then our AI is going to create that combination of data points for you. So you can identify the users, or you can just talk to your account manager. What we like to do is to kind of throw all the different recipes on the table, see which ones align with our partners, and then we create and we help them create the campaigns. Couple of cases. One is when we identify active sites that have an outdated WordPress, no? And that's one of the things you mentioned before. No? You send your users information about WordPress. You sort of need to know at which stage of WordPress they are. No? That's why we identify active sites, which is only websites that are ready for end users to do. So if you have something like a, hello world, welcome to WordPress, we would not contact you in this case because that's still a website under development and that have an outdated WordPress. Now, if someone has an outdated WordPress, there are quite a few things we already know about that user. First, that he is open to some security risks, so we can just give him a hand. No, the way that works with our partners is there are like two different approaches normally. One is to try to upsell some sort of managed WordPress or a WordPress as a service, kind of to make sure that their WordPress installation is fully up to date constantly. And there is another one, which is actually increasingly drawing attention, which is just offering them the help of a professional. Not that much a SaaS service, but a human being that can just log into the control panel, make sure everything is updated, make sure everything is secure, et cetera, et cetera. No?
Okay.
So that's...
This is for customers who really don't want to do anything themselves, right? They're just like, can you please take care of it for me?
Absolutely. And actually, on that note, there is a very interesting thing because bear in mind, we also have things like a semantic engine that lets us know what the website is about, in which industry they operate. No? So the way our partners are using this specific recipe is when they consider emailing someone about an outdated WordPress, it's not the same if you email a financial institution or a bank or an accountant who they should be really, really worried about security, being up to speed. They might not be that technical, et cetera, et cetera. So the message could be kind of from one direction. Whereas if you're emailing a florist, maybe they don't have the budget to hire professionals. So you offer something like a SaaS service to keep everything updated. No? So it's very, very important to not only identify the recipes as of the opportunity, but also understand the stage your customers are in, the industry where they belong, how much of a budget can you infer they have from that, et cetera, et cetera. Because once again, to steal one of your sentences, Larissa, the idea is to send the right message, right, at the right time, but most importantly, getting users to feel they're being talked to directly, instead of just being a blanket email.
Yeah.
And there is also another very interesting one, because some of our partners, they somehow don't feel very comfortable trying to constantly upsell things. They feel they're going to be perceived as like too commercial or too pushy. So we've also created a series of recipes that are not really aiming at upselling something, but mostly aimed at helping the customers with the journeys. No? There is one that is actually catching a lot of attention, which is this opportunity here, which is premium email. Like those are domains that have a custom domain and are using the likes of Google Workspace or Microsoft or Titan or Proton Mail. But surprisingly, in many, many cases, they've failed to configure some of the security settings, meaning their domain or the email is actually quite open to the likes of spoofing or someone hacking in transit. Think about this user, right? They have a website, they've set up a custom email with Google, Microsoft, Titan, etc., etc. So they've gone through that process of setting things up. They somehow feel, okay, if I'm paying Google €5 a month or Microsoft or Proton, surely everything is really being taken care of. So after all that journey, you as their hoster or the registrar drop them a line saying, hey, look, I saw you set up your email with Google. That's fantastic. Congratulations. Now you can benefit for X, Y, Z. But you should know that there are a couple of additional settings that you also need to take care of. And they are not automatically enabled by your email provider. Right. So in that context, that person, after doing all this effort, he gets a little note saying, hey, you also need to do X, Y, Z. So they actually go, they contact support, they talk to them, or they go to a tutorial where everything is explained. Normally, they are not complex things. They just need to be explained properly. You know? And I think that's the key. You know? Alerting someone of, hey, we notice you do have a problem. Those are the consequences, like your email is open to spoofing, and this is the solution, without trying to upsell anything, which is beautiful, right?
Jaime, so for instance, we see have a web hosting company who is interested in, for instance, upselling their higher tier hosting or managed hosting. And they're like, okay, I'm going to try mDI. What would be the process of them going from, uploading their domains up to, like somehow creating this segment in mDI, and then what would they do to be able to actually blast out an email, for instance?
The process is quite straightforward. Once again, you just upload your domains, then there will be someone like an account manager that's going to help you identify the relevant data points. No? In this case, things like response time and speed of the server, traffic you have, whether you are completely up to date with the different WordPress versions and the plugins or any other CMS, etc., etc. So once we identify those, we would draft the different recipes and we help you with the segmentation in the way that, depending on whether you are an e-commerce or you are a small web shop owner, etc., then we try to talk specifically to you. So you're on mute.
So one of the first things I saw about mDI and I love is the ability to kind of figure out exactly what you're saying. Like, what type of website is this? Is it like an e-commerce? Does it look like a blog? And also, what is the content? Because, my favorite example for .art, like, if I would know that a website is an artist or an art gallery or somehow art adjacent, and it has, for instance, an e-commerce component, that would really help me target like specific emails, not only about TLDs, but about basically anything to them. And this feature, or this like ability of mDI to extract that information is really interesting to be able to also.
Let me maybe go back to this section. Which is where all the data resides, for you to kind of ask the questions. And in this case, for example, you can do things like apply different filters. So, for example, you say, hey, domain, status. Sorry, it gets a bit complicated, but it's actually, so active public website. So we're going to be only looking at websites that are active and ready for users to use. And then you can do things like breakdown by, So in this case, mDI has a semantic engine that what it does is analyzes the content of the website and then categorizes it on different industries. So back to the arts component of it. So we see that in this sample, There's about 7% of domains that are actually within the arts and entertainment section. So that could be a candidate to try to upsell the .art domain. You mentioned that one, and it's actually quite interesting, no? Because that semantic engine, we can run kind of an ad hoc analysis where we can say, hey, identify whether in my portfolio there are any specific websites to .org for organizations, not for profit.
Right.
Or identify those that are potentially relevant to .yoga or .art or .studio or .cpa for accountants. No? So it's almost like once we have the semantic content of the website, we can run those kind of queries. No? If you are interested in selling any specific TLD to those users. No?
And how, so once you have that, you've identified your segment through creating a recipe, or many recipes, then does it integrate with a CRM or ESP? Do we export it, or does our like trusty account manager do it all for us?
Funny enough, we have a whole range of options. No? It goes from as simple as simply just export your results. Sorry, if you go back to the recipes, kind of just export those domains into a CSV. It's as simple as that. So you can just we do this a lot for early tests. So you simply download a CSV with your domains, upload it to your CRM, call it HubSpot, Freshdesk, MailChimp, any of those, and just send some campaigns. So that's kind of the only one that doesn't require any development whatsoever. No? And then on the other extreme, there is a very transparent API. Right? So you can quite simply just inquire about the specific data points through that API and automate the whole process. No? And there are a whole range of grays in between in between those two. No? Normally, we do start with the more manual, and then kind of evolve towards the more automated. No? Because that API also integrates with the likes of HubSpot, Freshsales, WHMCS, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is the possibilities are endless, depending on, each configuration each particular configuration that a company may have. And so it's
And
also
I think very importantly also, what we've seen more and more, even with very big registrars and hosters who have a large marketing and dev team, the only constant we see across pretty much every partner is that they are very constrained on resources. So we do have to, or we do act as a bit of a consultant sometimes in terms of helping them integrate their technical stack. We've done that quite a few times already, and it's almost like when someone tells you the path, it's much easier to go through it. Let me share an example. We saw a large portfolio of domains for a Nordic hosting company. And what we did is we were tracking the website, and whenever a domain moved from a parked website or a placeholder WordPress template into a ready website, that's the moment they send them an offer about SEO or content creation. And it's almost like the message is utterly relevant, no? Because think about that. No? You've bought a domain, it's been parked for a few months, suddenly you publish your first website. There's a lot of effort that has gone into that, either by yourself or by someone you hired. And then you get an email from your hosting company saying, hey, congratulations on your website. That looks fantastic. By the way, we noticed there are a couple of issues you could easily fix, or you can try to get this product, this other product. We did mention before that surprisingly, even big companies, they struggle with time. No? So we prepare this what we call the main snapshot, which is basically an email with a lot of relevant information for your registrant. No? Things like the main status, your DNS, the status of your SSL, the status of your email, whether your CMS is updated or not. And in some cases, in this case, for example, in this example, the WordPress is quite old. So you can either alert, or in this very email, you can say, hey, we notice your WordPress is outdated. That's actually heavily outdated. This is how you can upgrade it. No? And there, if you go further down, there are things like site health, different issues. In this case, there's one image without alt tag, things like ranked keywords over time, the evolution over time, things like backlinks to your sites. And bear in mind, some domain owners actually do pay a monthly service to get this kind of information. So this is not really trying to upsell them something, which you also could, but it's mostly kind of being perceived as more of a companion on their online presence, rather than just a commoditized domain provider. Things like content freshness, etc., etc. And then, of course, there's a bit of a feedback. The interesting thing here, once again, is that you are informing your customer. You are becoming a trusted source of advice. And if in any of these cases, in this case, for example, if they use Let's Encrypt, you might as well try to upsell a more premium SSL. That's kind of completely up to the partner. Funny enough, some partners, they like to be very kind of sales focused. Some partners are more into helping the user. There is an American one, actually, which is quite interesting. They have this rule of we need to send at least 2 informational notifications alerting them of something, because let's face it, almost every website has one of those little issues. So we need to send at least 2 kind of, hey, we can help you with that, before we can try to upsell something, which is an interesting one. First, they try to to engage with them, to inform them, and only on the third interaction, they actually try to sell something, which is an interesting one. Whereas some other registrars, they are more focused on, okay, try to identify those that have an outdated SSL or something like a premium SSL, etc., etc. Like the combination of data is what makes it, and every single partner really brings something new to the table, which keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, I mean, we also learn a lot from them. Would you say, well, I guess you kind of answered my question. Everyone has different objectives, so they're going to be interested in different recipes. But are there any that stand out as like the most popular recipes that hosts want to try out with their database?
I think that the clearest long-hanging fruit is those this one, outdated WordPress, because managed WordPress is a not very expensive service, so it doesn't have much friction. So users are quite likely to convert into that. And if you can sort of split for like company websites, for example, as opposed to individual websites, any company website would actually pay a little premium to have that service. So that converts super well. The ticket is not that high, but it converts super well. Another one that works very, very well is these parked sites or domains, where either you have like the usual kind of parking template, or you've already started with something, but it's clearly underdeveloped. So that's, once again, very specific, very niche. The message is, hey, did you get stuck with your website? Get a designer to give you a hand, or get a website builder. It depends on the customer. And I would say there's a third category, which is this one here, where there are some SEO issues. And we have this section, this kind of data section, which we call the audit, which is basically things like, do they have proper CSV map? Is there any broken links? Other things like, no meta descriptions, too long, empty titles, too long titles. Basically, for every single domain portfolio we've analyzed, over 95% of websites had at least one issue. Like, no one has a perfect website, right? So what some hosters are trying to do is to actually reach out to the end users just to inform them and say, hey, you've got 5 broken links. Those are the pages where the broken links are. Go and fix them. It's going to help your end user. It's going to make you look much better. So it's no upselling. No, it's simply, hey, I am your provider and I'm taking care of you.
I think looking at these data points, especially those around like SEO, I feel like a lot of mistargeting we see or mismatch targeting we see in campaigns is also because they don't take into account the content level of the site. You know, how often is content added or updated? Do they have good or terrible SEO? And how much traffic or how much traffic approximately do they have? Because I feel like if you can really identify a site that's struggling with traffic, with SEO, they're not publishing content, the
Mhm.
support you can give them, not even upsells, right? The support you can give them is totally different. And also the upsells you're going to give them are not going to be for, you know, like a resource intensive site who has a ton of traffic because that's just not relevant. So I really
Mhm.
like well, there are a ton
Absolutely,
of,
absolutely.
yeah, tell me.
Yeah, in this domain snapshot, which once again, this is one of the versions we have because it depends a lot on the partner. But one of the things we have is things like content freshness. No? And when we've been tracking this for a while, you can see how things like the content freshness and the number of backlinks, they actually do have an impact on visibility and how many keywords are appearing. No, sorry, I know it's very small fonts, but basically content freshness, when it goes up or down, together with the number of backlinks, it has a direct impact on the number of ranked keywords. No? So it's very easy and visually for customers to draw their own conclusions. Like, okay, the content freshness has gone down big times, and we do have seem to miss out on some ranked keywords and on some visibility. No? Funny enough, when talking to the likes of agencies instead of hosting companies, they do see this as an opportunity to offer content creation services and et cetera, et cetera.
In
No?
that case, it's really relevant, right? We had a customer, a marketgoo SEO tool customer, who really struggled. She understood how important content creation was, updating her blog post, and she was an expert in the topic of her website, but she really struggled to find time. You know, SMB owners are usually like one, you know, they have very small teams, or it's just them trying to run everything. And she would have really benefited from, you know, if her hosting company would have sent her something like, you know, we noticed you're not creating content, your SEO is so, like, why don't we solve this problem for you? That would have been a very, even though it's a salesy message, it's a very welcome message because they understand exactly what, what stage your site is in and what help you need at that specific moment.
and let me take it up one notch higher. No? Imagine you already have some sort of a relationship with that customer. So you're sending this kind of report on a monthly basis. So you could even and very easily actually highlight things like, oh, your content freshness is declining over the last few months. No? You can reach out to the person, hey, content is super important. You should do this, and we can help you, etc., etc. No? And there is a very interesting thing that on the back of what you mentioned, no, more and more we see how mostly business sites, they actually do prefer to pay some extra dollars to get someone to take care of the whole thing, right? Like maybe
Yeah.
you and I, because we are more down in the mud, doing things ourselves, etc., etc. We don't work that way. But if you have a small business, or even if you have a large one, and someone tells you, hey, we can fix your issues for, there is a care plan for $100 a month that sort of takes care of everything. It's surprising how many, not that big companies, they actually prefer to go for someone human to go and fix their stuff.
Yeah, I think we're focusing a lot on, how can what opportunities there are like to upsell and to engage, but also I feel like customer support teams in general can also benefit a lot from this information. No? Like if you can see all this information for a single website when you're helping a customer, like you can really help them in their specific issues, and also act as a trusted advisor to kind of recommend exactly what they need in terms of services or actions they need to take themselves, versus like a very blanket, generic type of support or like canned response support.
And let me build on top of that, no? Because we actually have we developed. But when you go to the database, let's just close this breakdown. For any specific website, you can go to what we call the report card. No? So basically, we developed this for a specific client who wanted to give this to their support agents. No? So they integrate this within the CRM, which was first sales, but that's pretty relevant. And basically, whenever a domain owner contacts support, they get access to this card. No? And there are two very interesting things on this card. No? Someone contacts support, and then you go down and see, oh, actually, they have some missing meta description, or they have some missing H1 tags, or some of the mentions are missing. No? So the support agent, in addition to solving the problem the customer contacted for, they can just open here and say, okay, that's what the issue is, that's what the issue is. And they can very easily say, I notice you do have that issue, you should fix it. No? So it's almost like exceeding expectation.
Exactly.
And the second interesting thing
also
is that
I was just going to say better direct them to the company's own resources. Like these companies have amazing knowledge bases, and they can accurately also point them to, in the right direction, use it, like, make better use of the existing knowledge base and support resources that already are there.
And once again, it's something that the customer might not even be aware of. So think about the customer perception. No? They have an issue with a renewal, for example. No? They contact support and they tell them, okay, this is blah blah blah. Okay, your card has been updated, so everything is ready now. By the way, I noticed you have some issues on here, and there. That might be preventing your site. So basically, the user thinks, wow, they're telling me a problem I didn't know I had, and they tell me how to fix it. That's fantastic. The flip side of that is that in this corner here, we actually listed all the opportunities for that specific website. So the support person can both see the issues. Oh, sorry, I was overcalling. Both see the issues, and they can become a salesperson at the same time. No? Because they see, oh, active website with an updated WordPress. So, oh, actually, there is a chance to sell these guys a managed WordPress package. Or they have a premium.
Really powerful. And this feature, what is it called? It's like domain report card, right?
Yeah, we call it the report card. And
I see a share button there. So basically you can share it with someone who isn't using mDI at that moment, who isn't on your team on mDI.
Absolutely. The normal case is that support teams, they just have a read-only access account, so they just open it very easily because it's integrated in the CRM. It's like super simple integration. But they can even share that with the customer, or they can share that with the sales team if they need to kind of try to upsell something with them, etc., etc. No, but I think beyond the details of this URL, how it works, the fundamentals are the important thing here. Not the fact that you can be very relevant to your user. You can really add real value and solve problems and be perceived as much, much more than just a commodity provider. From that, sort of everything follows.
Okay, I love that. Can we go? So we looked quickly at the data points in properties, I think. So one of my questions, which I see answered here, is how fresh is the data, or how often is the data for each domain updated?
I think that's a very important question. Data gets updated on a weekly basis, every 7 days, and it goes on cycles, etc., etc. And we think that's utterly important. What we do not want is to reach out to a customer alerting of an issue that was 3 months ago, right? That would be an absolutely awful user experience. No? So data gets updated on a weekly basis, which also opens the door to things like the trends we discussed before. No? If someone goes from one use case from one state to another, no? There is so once again, no, there are like so many different types of companies using this tool. That there is an agency in France, and they're actually using which is something I did not come up with. No? They identify the technologies detected on a specific website. Things like whether they use the specific frameworks, and they look at specifically at Google Analytics. So whenever they see that they have a Google Analytics tag 1 week, another week, and then 1 week suddenly it disappears, it triggers an alert to say, hey, we notice you no longer have Google Analytics. Is that on purpose? Or someone deleted that by accident?
Oh, okay. So they'll do that with various technologies,
Yes, and seriously, 10 out of 10, there was a junior that has this wonderful idea of this is useless and deleted the tag. That's usually 10 out of 10 every single time. And that actually happens with a lot of like tracking things and etc. Or someone trying to clean the code accidentally delete something. So that's
Well,
yeah, that was
basically for monitoring. So like that's
so
another.
it becomes a bit of a monitoring tool. Yeah.
That's really interesting. And one last thing before we start closing up the webinar, the analysis section, we didn't, since the recipes are really the secret sauce here. But I feel like the portfolio analysis is also something that can be very useful, especially like the first time you do your scan, you upload your domains.
There was a very interesting one with a registrar, and we show all the recipes, we show everything, and there was this very technical guy that was involved in the computation. And the one thing that caught his attention was the error 500, the server errors. No? So, to be honest, I never thought that could be a big problem, but he did, and he did email about that 2% of his domain portfolio, saying, "Hi, I'm." But he did it in a seriously, like with Gmail and a little script saying, "Hi, I noticed you have server errors on this, and that page. Go and fix them." No automation whatsoever. He just took the domains, sent them an email, and many of them just reply with, "Oh, fantastic! I didn't know that. Thanks. We are fixing that up." So yeah, fantastic. So it's almost like recipes identify opportunities, segments identify how we talk to the users within that opportunity. Because once again, if you're a big financial company, you can try to upsell a wildcard SSL because they can spend like €1,000 a month on a wildcard, no? Or on a DMARC protection. No? Whereas if it's a blog or a personal website, maybe you go with smaller gowns, basically.
Okay, that makes sense. So that's why you said often it's the analysis is like the landing page within mDI because that's the first thing you look at and kind of
Mm-hmm.
what starts you on the journey of asking the right questions that or like the answers you want to know about your customer
Mm-hmm.
base. So I think
Absolutely, absolutely.
this is the perfect place to close off the webinar because I feel like we've come full circle, right? We started with like the poorly targeted emails, and we've finished really about talking about how it's about asking the right questions. Not only having the data, but discovering what are like the best questions to ask about your customer base, and then finding a way to target them, and using our like mDI's data points as well to formulate to the right message, and target it at the right time during the customer's life cycle, the stage of their website, etc. So to anyone watching this, if you at all identified with any of the issues we brought up, of the issues and challenges we brought up for web hosters, please give mDI a spin. It's free to sign up. You can use demo data, you can upload your own data as well, and really explore the endless possibilities that are presented to you with recipes. And we're also here to help. I'll add a slide with links to resources and also how to contact us. And thanks so much for your time.
Good, fantastic. Thanks indeed to you.
Thanks. See you later. Bye.
Yep. Goodbye.